You're watching Rurouni K95's anime review on Dallos. Hi, Ruronis. This is your pal Rurouni K95 here. Today's anime review, we get to cover an anime OVA series that only has 4 episodes from December 16th, 1983 to August 5th, 1984, which is another anime OVA series directed by Mamoru Oshii. For today's anime review is Dallos. Yeah. Dallos is a science fiction anime OVA series released in 1983, which is probably particularly around the same time as Urusei Yatsura anime TV series Creamy Mommy and the Kabocha wine, particularly when it comes to, and also Unico and the Island of Magic, particularly as well. And yet the music was composed by Ichiro Nitta and Hiroyuki Namba as well, as this is the typical science fiction anime OVA, particularly. Yeah, it was conceptualized by Hisayuki Toriumi, who also wrote the script for and directed it with Mamoru Oshii, who is known for Ghost in the Shell movies, several Pat Labor films, The Sky Cross, Jinro, The Wolf Brigade, and he is also known for directing 105 episodes of Urusei Yatsura and a couple of Urusei Yatsura movies as well, which he is basically known for. It is widely considered not only the first OVA released, but also the first animated direct-to-video production release, because this is how OVA particularly are, because they're basically direct-to-video anime, particularly. And yes, this is made by the company Studio Pierrot, particularly, which is probably the same company, which we'll get to that in just a moment as well. Yeah. The story focuses on the rebellion on a moon colony by settlers and the mysterious artifact called Dallos. The story and setting taking influence by past works such as the 1966 feature film The Battle of Algiers and the 1966 novel The Moon is a Harsh Mistress as well. These 4 episodes were edited together to create the 85-minute long film Dallos special in 1985, particularly, for this particular OVA as well. So let's review this anime OVA Dallos, because this is the first time I wanted to do this. Mind you that this anime OVA Dallos was directed by Hisayuki Toriumi and Mamoru Oshii, which is known for his many works as well for the satisfactory results. Which I guess this is probably in the same way. I guess that's probably in the same way how Aaron Magruder has known for the Boondocks as well. But anyways, so let's review Dallos. Let's begin. I mean, the whole plot in Dallos revolves around a younger generation of moon colonists resisting the regime forced upon them by Earth government that treats them like cattle who are marked with a number of rings on their forehead and exist to mine resources to pay off the debt to Earth as well. Especially if you ever see what is going on, particularly if you ever watch the anime OVA Dallos, at least as if you watch it on DVD from Discotheque Media, or if you watch it on Crunchyroll or Tubi TV as well. Which is a questionable reason for the show ever explaining why anyone would move to the moon, knowing that would pretty much wage slaves for many generations until they return to Earth has invested into them. It also doesn't explain why that anyone who agreed to work under the conditions that are apparently so bad it made a lot of third-generation settlers to revolt. I'm going off to of what Doc says, because it is, as far as the visuals goes, we do see that the settlers don't live most luxurious lives, and they do have to wear the rings on their forehead, which can be rather humiliating, but otherwise not shown as to be awfully miserable in their situation, particularly what we expect. What do you see? What is going on in this particular anime OVA like Dallos, particularly? Because this only encapsulated only 4 episodes, as never to say would have been intended to be like a TV series, either a 12-episode TV series or a 50-episode TV series or a 25-episode anime series. But it's basically just a 4-episode OVA, which the anime OVA titled Dallos particularly has intended as well, because that's how it's given in the title, because this is probably one of the most ambiguous OVAs of the 80s, when it's probably part of the primary example of 80s anime OVAs that came out in Japan during the 80s as well. That's particularly that is the question, though, because that's the thing about what it is about Dallos, particularly for many things, which is a questionable reason as well. Yep. It also doesn't explain what everyone would agree to work under the conditions that are apparently so bad it made a lot of third-generation settlers to revolt. I'm going off to what Dog says, because as far as visuals go, we do see that the settlers don't live most, particularly what you see in Dallos, the luxurious lives, and they do have to wear the rings on their forehead, which can be rather humiliating. But otherwise, they're not shown to be awfully miserable in their situation. But still, without the OVA giving the viewer much information, I can, as most, wonder why they move on the moon. It would be better if the show just threw in some reason, like it's basically Space Australia, or they sent in a bunch of prisoners for whom working in a mine on an isolated rock in space, preferable to either prison or death, which is either way, which is one way or the other, in Dallos particularly. That's one of the reasonable things, particularly of what we see, what expect going on, to explain what it is about how it's given in the title, particularly about what it is about Dallos for this particular anime OVA as well. So the OVA also tries to make you care about Dallos, which is basically some machine got embedded into the moon. Settlers are shows to pray it, as it was some sort of god, or older settlers always refer to it like some deity, and there are only vague things you learn about now, other than the other things when you see what is going on in Dallos. And then, like at some point, people who had to seek refuge inside the thing, and it was apparently built by someone who was on the moon before them, but you never get any proper concrete information and how much the show will like it's to bring up. But I don't think that's the best idea, to keep the viewer in the shadows. It doesn't make it seem mysterious, it just makes it seem like a plot device, as it particularly was given in the title, particularly to explain what it is about Dallos, particularly. I mean, that is the primary example of 80s anime OVAs, because they're basically like direct-to-video anime, which Dallos is basically what it's capable of for the credibility as well. Just to let you know that this anime OVA, how it's basically like what is seeing what is going on, particularly in Dallos as well. Yeah. The OVA, I'll give Dallos a bit of credit, and for that, it doesn't treat either side as it either is just good or just bad, and has notions within both. But that is the question, though, particularly for the anime OVA like Dallos. Yeah. While it's hard to sympathize with gorillas without their allegedly miserable living conditions being all that bad, you can still kinda sympathize with them a bit based on what is shown. There's also a perspective of older generation that avoids fighting, because despite their frustration, they understand that the conflict will likely improve their situation in the long run, to expect if it was to be intended as well. But I think that's the thing for Dallos. It is not like if it's either a compilation movie, like using some combined anime TV series they wanted to edit as a feature-length movie. Neither is like it's not even like if Sin the movie was almost an hour long as well, particularly. Unlike any other certain anime OVAs in general, they wanted to basically have to edit it as a movie version, which we'll get to that in just a moment as well, because come to think of it, that is the question, though, particularly for Dallos. How do you know, given in the title as well, if it's expect to see what's going on in Dallos? There is also a perspective of older generation of that avoids fighting because, despite their frustration, they understand that the conflict will likely improve their situation in the long run. Similarly, there are less Earth characters in Earth. Thus, we still get people who can relate to opposing side. However, in every other respect, the show fails flat. There is a small betrayal subplot on the Earth side with it's a little nonsensical and hard to care individually. Most characters are as about interesting as a rotten potato. It's not interesting to follow them and hard to care about what happens them. The show is mostly plot driven away, but that means the romance subplot is almost expect what is going on as a mandatory romance subplots usually are at this point, as if they were need to be explained how you describe them, particularly for Dallos as well. Come to think of it, because that's the question, though. When it comes to art, it's a bit better. The character designs is a rather standard for 80s, some silly haircuts here and there. There is a clear distinction between Moon and Earth characters. Pretty much every woman is a babe and every adult is a meat brick with muscle pipes growing out of their killer pecs and bulldozer buttocks. But what'll command that? But that is almost awkward, which is almost in a weird way. What I'll commend are the mechanical designs on the side of gorillas at the start of the show. We see one of the characters mess with the hydraulic robot arm, which later gives the leader of gorillas an idea to use them as a weapon, particularly as well. At first, he just uses one to wear on himself and breaks down in a prison, but later they start utilizing their mining robots for battle, and it does seem hints on it of industrial equipment with its design, which looks pretty sweet. On Earth's side, particularly for Dallos, to explain what it is as well. Hell, we mostly just get generic space fighters and rather bad-looking suits of armor with some different intriguing color scheme and way over-designed helmets. When it comes to the animation as well, it's not one of those OVAs with ridiculously good animation, but it's still rather well animated, which makes occasional fights and a somewhat fun to watch. While it's not as fluid as usually expected from overblown 80s productions, it still has some style to make it worth watching. But overall, this is particularly your typical intriguing OVA from Mamoru Oshii, which he has a lot to do for Dallas OVA particularly. And also for the home media video release. In 1991, Celebrity Home Entertainment released an American dub of Dallos special on the VHS title Battle for the Moon Station Dallos. This feature was re-released by the Best Film and Video Corp as well, simply titled Dallos. Discotheque Media released the series in an uncut form on DVD in 2014. The streaming platform Crunchyroll added the OVA series to its catalog in May 2015. And in Spain, it was distributed and licensed in VHS format by Chiqui Video during the 80s. The 4 episodes were edited together to create an 85-minute long film Dallos special in 1985. So that's going to be it for my anime review on Dallos for today's anime review. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's my thoughts. When I first watched it, I really enjoyed this OVA because this means a lot to me for the anime OVA like Dallos particularly, because this is the primary example of 80s anime OVA that came out in the 80s in Japan. If you haven't seen Dallos, you can watch it on either Tubi TV or Crunchyroll, or you can get it on DVD that is released by Discotheque Media. Hope to subscribe for content. My anime pilot link in the description below. You can share this video on your Twitter or Facebook if you have Twitter or Facebook account on all social media. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up by clicking on the like button on this video. Feel free to leave in the comments in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RuRoniK95. Feel free to join the channel, especially new to my channel. Hit the notifications bell button. Keep it otaku for this anime review. Got another anime review next. Stay tuned for my next anime review. I got an anime movie that I haven't reviewed for tomorrow's anime review on Black Butler, Book of the Atlantic. Stay tuned for my next anime review on Black Butler, Book of the Atlantic, because you won't want to miss another anime review.